What is up guys, Alex here, and today I'm going to show you how I made this. Okay, so I wrote this short track today to make this tutorial specifically to show you guys how I go about writing action percussion for my orchestral tracks. I'm making this tutorial because I see people making either one of these two mistakes. Mistake number one is they tend to overdo it, so their percussion is all over the place and they cover the rest of the instruments and the rhythm is way too hard to guess for the listeners, so what ends up happening is that their track is a total mess that only them can understand, and that people who listen to the track with no idea what went into the track have no clue what to listen, and yeah, it's just a mess. And there is the second group of people who tend to be too much shy about their percussion. So they have each instrument in the track be much more powerful than the percussion, and yeah, the problem is that percussion is a huge weapon to use to convey more power and energy and tension to your tracks. So mastering how to go about creating some percussion that are neither too weak nor too nor too strong. Yeah, it's kind of important if you have to write this kind of music. So let's check it out. So yeah, as you can see here, each percussion, like this percussion sounds like a single thing, but it's not exactly like that. We have something like 5 layers of percussion here and some trailer hits in here as well. So yeah, each layer has its own logic and its own reason to be there, and I'm going to explain you guys how I went about creating this, starting from layer number 1. Okay, so layer number 1 is this. So let's check it out. As you can see, I colored the different kinds of percussion in this pattern so that I can explain you bit by bit how I made them and why. So the thing you just heard are basically only the accents of the rhythm, and with accents I mean the root. I don't know if that's the right word to define them, but the root notes of the rhythm, basically the notes which every single other aspect of the whole rhythm revolves around. When the accents play, everything else plays in unison, basically, in terms of rhythm. So the role of these accents is to define, first thing, the most important moments in the whole rhythm, and as a second thing is they basically define or help the listener hold on to something, so basically when the tracks evolves and the rhythms go wild and the whole tracks goes introduce more elements, etc., the listener can still hold on to something, which is the accents of the rhythm that play in a very steady way and easy to follow way, except in this part where they are a little bit more fast-paced, and this is because this part is a variation that brings the listener to the next set of beats. But yeah, let's check out the accents in the first kind of percussion here. Easy to follow, steady, and everything else. So for this kind of low and boomish percussion, I tend to only play the accents this way because this kind of percussion should be played with care and with big impactful strikes, but not too fast, because this kind of boomish sound, if played too fast, it tends to clutter up the whole, frequency spectrum, and it's not much pleasing. So my logic is the thicker the percussion is, the more, the less fast paced it should be played. So yeah, this is why I use the accent notes only for this kind of low percussion. And then I also added a little bit more here, this layer here, to give a little bit more life to the whole thing. But it's really subtle. And then on top of that, I added a layer of syncopated percussion. This, blue layer here. And with syncopated, I mean, like, maybe this is not the right definition of syncopation when it comes to music theory, but yeah, since I did not study theory, I have my own way to define things. But with syncopated, I mean, like, syncopated notes are notes that play inside another rhythm. So we have the green rhythm here, which we heard, and you see there is much space between each, note in the rhythm, and the notes that play in between that space are the syncopated notes inside that rhythm. So these blue notes here that play between these two green notes are the syncopated notes of the two green notes. That's what I call them, but it's like, this definition might be wrong. It's maybe syncopated is not the right word, but that's what I call them. And yeah, they basically fill that void with some interesting rhythm that doesn't go too far away from the original intended rhythm, but makes the whole thing more rich, and yeah, it fills it with more tension. And this syncopation here, this syncopation mindset, I use it for everything in my percussive elements and my percussive layers. So in the next layer, you're going to see how I really apply it everywhere. So let's skip to step 2. Okay, as a second thing here, I added some brushed percussion and sticks. So together they sound like this. So yeah, as you can hear, this new layer of percussion is, or as you can see, this new layer of percussion is much more syncopated, much faster in terms of rhythm, but that's only because this kind of sound is much lighter, much less boomish and stuff. So since it has this light sonic quality, I can use it with faster rhythms without cluttering my mix too much. And I took advantage of that, and I always do in my tracks. For this kind of brushed and stick percussion, I use the faster rhythms. I, take this chance to syncopate my percussion more and create more tension, like I did here. So here we have this set of brush percussion. This one plays the accents, and this one plays the syncopated notes within the accents. So let's check them together. And then we have some sticks playing syncopated notes again. And on top of that, we have another set of sticks, which is a hybrid between accents and syncopated notes with some interesting feels, like these 3 notes here or here. Let's check it out. As you can hear, like, it has some interesting feels and some interesting, voids here. And the role of this percussion is to, in a subtle way, define the rhythm even more by, yeah, I don't know how to explain this, but I just basically messed around to create another layer of rhythmic percussion to accentuate some parts more. And yeah, another thing I did here is to play with the velocities. Actually, I did that in the whole, like for the whole percussive side of this track. Uh, yeah, it's a good thing to do if you write percussion like this ones. You want to play with velocities because that's yet another way to define, the percussive side of a track much more, because not it's when it comes to percussion, what's important is not only the rhythm but also the way the rhythms are played. So for example, if we took this whole pattern of percussion and we put all the velocities to max, let's check it out how it would sound. Yeah, it's pretty much mess, and you cannot kind of define the different layers. It's just cluttered mess. So you really need velocities. So like this is what the sound with the velocities on. Opposed to this. So definitely play with the velocities for fun and profit. So now let's check step 3. Okay, so step 4 here, I added a subtle layer of underscore sounds from Juggernaut. And as you can hear, they're really tiny compared to everything else we've wrote so far, and when we play them along with everything else, they kind of disappear like this. You almost cannot hear them, but that's something like that's on purpose. This is something I like to do in my tracks. Like I like to add some details here and there which are almost hidden and that the listener would not even notice in the first playthroughs. Like when he plays the track like 50 times, maybe he starts to get a little bit more glimpses on these hidden layers of sounds. And this is not needed, it's just something I like to do to spice things up even more and to create a little bit more fullness without being too much invasive or cluttering up the track. And since this kind of sound is pretty much light, not too heavy, I can play any rhythms I want. So for example, with this tip here, there is a lot of delay going on, and this is because it doesn't take so much, like it doesn't take too much space. And yeah, delay is another way to play with rhythms, because yeah, it creates rhythms basically if used the right way. And then below that, I added some cymbals that play strategically to open up the percussion at the beginning of certain bars. So for example, here at the first, third, fifth, and seventh bar, and then from here on each single bar. So yeah, let's check them out. Yeah, the cymbals, I try to use them with care because they have such a dramatic impact on the overall, percussion, that yeah, if you use them too much, it kind of loses that kind of impact. You want to use them in strategic points so that yeah, they basically convey more power in a very logical way. So let's check step 4. This is the part where I added some trailer hits, and yeah, let's check it out first, and then I'm going to explain you. Okay, so as you might have noticed, the role of trailer hits, or as I explained it also in my tutorial for the track The Landing, trailer hits are basically pretty much like cymbals in the way that they are used. Like, they are basically the kind of sound that brings the most power to the beginning of a bar, or yeah, I basically use them every time, whenever I use them, it's the beginning of a bar. And they're basically badass sounds. So let's check them out alone without the percussion. Very, very basic rhythm, and they play on the beginning of the bars only, and not like, you know, in the middle like this without much sense. And this is because these are very powerful boomish and sounds with a long tail and stuff. So as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this kind of heavy percussive sound must be used with care, without going too much crazy, and the only moment I did is in here. And this is because this was the final part of the track, where the tension went to the max in this track. So in here I used trailer hits multiple times, even if it wasn't like in the beginning of the bar. But yeah, the point here is the trailer hits basically define the accents more, and yeah, they basically give power to the track. That's the only role they have, but they sound massive, and these are layered, by the way. There are two kinds of trailer hits I use. These ones, as you can see, they have a really fast transient, and they do not have, you know, that initial whoosh. They just hit like that. And this is what I call short hits, and then we have whoosh hits, like this one, or this one below, that have a whoosh and a tail. And yeah, they do not come out of the blue like the short hits, and they have a different kind of impact when they play. But the thing I like to do is to layer whoosh hits and short hits together, because whoosh hits are they have a certain kind of impact, and rather atmospheric impact, and they tend to have the most tail, and the short hits instead have the most powerful impact, but it's not much atmospheric, and it doesn't have a really substantial tail. So put together, they're better. And the whole purpose of layering is to merge together sounds that have different characteristics that, when added together, go to build something which is bigger than the sum of its parts, instead of just, you know, putting sounds together just because. You know, when you layer sounds, you need to do it in such a way that each sound complements or completes the other so that the whole thing sounds like not like the two sounds are fighting for space, but rather like the two sounds are building something together. And then we have, on top of that, these taiko rolls from Hybrid Tools 2, which are basically sort of like whooshes, but they're super big, like super big. And we have this one as well. Super big and atmospheric when put together with the rest. So yeah, pretty much that's about it. So yeah, that's how I write percussion, and with this kind of percussive bed, I have all the space and all the accents, etc. to write upon. And I did by adding some short strings and short brass. So let's check it out. Okay, so that's about it for the tutorial of the day, and a quick wrap up. Point number 1, try not to use too much fast-paced rhythms for low and boomish percussion. Use those with care. Point number 2, use fast-paced rhythm and syncopated rhythms for higher register percussions like sticks and brush, because they do not get in the way of the clarity of the sound. And point number 3, use velocities a lot to define your rhythms more. Point number 4, don't be lazy and always remember to use variations and fills between bars to make your percussion sound more interesting. Otherwise, they might sound a little bit repetitive and bland after a while. By the way, if you have any questions about this tutorial, or if I forgot to mention something, let me know in the comments below so that I can answer your questions or clear your doubts. And I know I've been kinda inactive lately, but don't worry guys, there is more content like this coming at you real soon. And if you're new, I suggest you to subscribe to this channel if you're looking for more tutorials about orchestral music, or vlogs about music production mindset and stuff, because I love to make these things. But since I'm kind of new, as you saw, these tutorials are not quite perfect yet, but I'm trying my best to convey you guys some value and to teach you what I know how to make. So if you're interested in learning, subscribe, and if you have some friends who are interested in learning this kind of music as well, share this video with them so that you can help them out. And that's it for today. Alex out.